Hi, I'm the Reverend Barb Ballenger, Associate for Spiritual Formation and Care here at the Church of St. Martin in the Fields. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about spiritual direction. Now, the year that I turned 22 was a really rough year. I had just graduated from college and moved away from my home in Ohio and taken my first job as a newspaper reporter in Rochester, New York. And within a few months after I started that job, my father died. I was bereft. I was alone and away from my family and friends. I was grieving and struggling in a demanding field. My friend, Mike, who was in seminary at the time, suggested that I needed a spiritual director, someone to help me find God in this sea of difficulty and despair. Now, it just so happened that across the street from my apartment, there was a church that I'd been attending, and they offered spiritual direction. So I began to meet with a director there, a priest who listened carefully to my story of faith, my deep pain and sorrow, my 22-year-old understandings and insights, and immediately recommended a grief counselor, along with the spiritual direction that he would offer. This was my first of many spiritual directors that I've had throughout my life. He was not a therapist, but he could recognize when I needed one. And what he did help me do was find the presence of God in my grief and in all the bewilderment of a new life on my own, and to listen to myself as I struggled with faith and to listen to God. That's what spiritual directors, also called spiritual companions, have helped me do in my adult life. They have been women and men, ordained and lay, Catholic, Brethren, Episcopal. All had received special training in helping people tell and listen their own spiritual story. A story everyone has, no matter what they formally believe or practice. It's the part of us that speaks of love and trust and faith and connection and something bigger than we are. A good spiritual director is not actually directive. They're not an advisor or a fixer, but rather, she helps one develop a practice of attentiveness and openness to oneself and to the divine. Like a good coach, he pulls from a vast array of practices that help sharpen that spiritual focus: prayer and meditation techniques, journaling and sacred reading, tools for self-reflection and understanding, and above all, deep and discerning self-listening. In my life, I found spiritual direction to be especially important when I was discerning a life change or trying to navigate a personal transition, a new job, a new home, a new faith tradition, a new stage in life, a new calling. And while my spiritual directors have often helped me navigate stormy seas, they've also been essential when I found myself with no wind in my sail, adrift on a flat ocean. As a priest, when people come to me with spiritual questions and challenges, I often might find myself suggesting spiritual direction. Find a practitioner to meet with monthly who is skilled in this art of spiritual navigation. They typically charge for their services, often on a sliding scale. They're not just for priests or seminarians. My 22-year-old self had no idea she would be anything other than a newspaper reporter who also happened to be a deeply spiritual person. In this current moment of cultural and spiritual uncertainty, when everything is thrown up in the air and new spiritual practices are in order, spiritual direction might be just what all of us need right now. St. Martin's has a long history of making itself a home for spiritual directors through our Wellspring ministry. Some have offered one-to-one direction through Hillary House before the pandemic limited our in-person gatherings. Others work from home studios. It's a conversation that lends itself well to phone or Zoom. A list of local directors can be downloaded from our website, stmartinec.org/wellspring. And a more comprehensive search of directors by location can be found through the website Spiritual Directors International, or SDI. Spiritual directors are as varied as spirituality itself, and there is a certain amount of grace involved in finding one that is just the right fit. Just as with choosing a doctor or a life coach, I recommend calling a few and interviewing them, having an initial session to discern if it's a good fit and feels right, and trying a few sessions as you prayerfully discern how well it's working. At the same time, the clergy at St. Martin's are always happy to meet for spiritual conversations and support, because in this current time, when the spiritual terrain has suddenly changed under our feet, we all need all the help we can get. Blessings to you on this day.